Let's dive right into this explainer and explore a rather incredible idea. How does an Anatolian tour guide translate ancient history into a literal blueprint for modern inner peace? Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating document by Hüseyin Sönmezai. He's a highly sought-after tour guide based in Antalya, Turkey, and he's taken the massive, deep-rooted history of his region and somehow distilled it all down into a philosophy for everyday, modern resilience. I want to start by asking you this directly. How can logical minds actually find true peace in a world that is so full of conflict? It's a pretty heavy question, isn't it? We look around, we see struggle, we see division everywhere. But Sönmezai offers this profound premise. He says that happiness isn't just luck or random chance. It's fundamentally a psychological matter for logical minds. And he argues there's a distinct, entirely logical pathway to achieving it, even when the whole world just feels completely chaotic. So let's jump into section 1, the geometry of joy. Now, what's really fascinating about this concept is that Sönmezai uses this idea of geometry to lay out a structured, logical framework for human happiness. He completely insists that we actually have to look backward if we ever want to move forward. To truly practice this geometry of joy, he writes that the path is crystal clear. We absolutely must seek information about the past to be able to see our future clearly. If we want peace, we can't just blindly guess at what comes next. We have to inform our logical minds with the hard-earned historical wisdom of the people who walked these lands way before us. Moving right along to section 2, wisdom of the past. This framework relies heavily on building a real connection to humanity's shared cultural heritage. Sönmezai issues this wonderful invitation, writing, "Come with me into the depths of Anatolian history and discover the path of wisdom through the spirit of ancient civilizations and humanity's shared cultural heritage." He's actively calling us to unite. He urges us to grow stronger together and stand incredibly firm against anyone who seeks to spark conflict or division. It is just such a beautiful reminder that our shared history is supposed to bring us together, not tear us apart. Which brings us to section 3, rules of resilience. To actually guide us through this, Sönmezai shares a deeply metaphorical poem. It's titled Harvest of the Resilient Soul, and it is just packed with super practical advice. Listen to this. "Do not sow hatred, for tomorrow you shall reap it. Do not cast a stone. Tomorrow it will trip your stride." Notice the absolute direct cause and effect happening here. Every single action we take in our daily lives has an immediate consequence on our own future path. Those literal or metaphorical stones we casually throw out into the world today, well, they become the exact obstacles we're going to stumble over tomorrow. He keeps that agricultural metaphor going perfectly in the next few lines. Plant seeds of goodness, even if you never see it sprout. Just wait a while and evil will be cast aside. The whole key here is the patient power of planting those seeds. You might not get that instant gratification of seeing the goodness bloom the very next day, but you really have to trust the process. Over time, that goodness actually takes root and just naturally pushes the evil right out of the way. Breaking down the next part of his poetry gives us some amazing, actionable advice for protecting our peace. First off, he tells us we need to sift out unnecessary people, but to do it with gentle grace. Second, he warns that for absolutely nothing in this world should you ever join the mindless choir. You can't just blindly follow the crowd. And third, keep walking forward on your own true path. You have to play the game of life completely by your own rules, even if that means risking standing out there totally alone. And now, section 4, conquering your destiny. Once you establish those internal boundaries we just talked about, the poem shifts. It goes from this quiet inner peace into a really passionate crescendo of outward courage. He writes, "Destiny is never light or easy for a soul. Be truly free. Spread out your wings and fly alone." Because true freedom, it's not about finding the absolute easiest route with the least amount of resistance. It requires stepping up and embracing the heavy burden of your own unique destiny. You have to be willing to leave the safety of the flock and soar entirely on your own. And if you manage to do that, just look at the incredible reward he promises. Watch how, in time, destiny will fall onto its knees. But to actually see that happen, Sönmezai writes that you have to stay absolutely resilient, determined, and strong. When you face life's ultimate, toughest trials with unwavering strength, the very concept of destiny bends to your will, instead of the other way around. Towards the poem's conclusion, he sets up this brilliant contrast between two very distinct paths in life. On the one hand, you have the brave runner, The goal is ultimately reached by the person who bravely runs the race. On the other hand, you have the hiding coward. So many people easily surrender to the simpler path, right? They hide around the corner, and then they complain and blame their fate when things go horribly wrong. It's a really stark warning against blaming the universe for your circumstances when you're the one who actively chose to hide. The poem finishes with a definitive, absolute powerhouse of a declaration. For life today belongs to those who dare, while cowards lose and weep a bitter song. Those who actually dare are the ones who truly claim life for themselves. Cowards, at the end of the day, are left with absolutely nothing but their own bitter regrets. Now, all of this profound insight comes directly from Hüseyin Sönmezai, who does incredible work bringing the ancient history of Antalya to a modern audience. If you want to uncover even more historical wisdom and help support his mission to preserve our shared human heritage, definitely go check out his work over at patreon.com/tourguide-whos. So I'll leave you with this final thought, and a pretty big choice. Will you dare to spread your wings, embrace the heavy burden of your own destiny, and fly alone? Or will you surrender to the simple path and hide behind the corner? The ancient history of Anatolia tells us exactly what we need to do to find peace. But taking that first brave step forward? Well, that is entirely up to you.